Hello, Thirstaholics. Welcome to The Thirsty Professional, where today we're joined by Duncan Higgins. He's a video editor, content creator, and a young creative mind on his way to great things. Go grab your bevy. We'll be back for our chat in no time.
Welcome to the space where truth is poured. No corporate scripts, just tales explored. From passion quest to purpose found, the thirsty professional breaks new ground. So fill your cup, let's have a chat about careers, life, and all of that.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to The Thirsty Professional. This is a place where we grab a bevy, we ditch the BS, and we get real about careers, purpose, and passion. I'm your host, Beth Ann Campbell. I'm a former corporate queen who traded in her crown and a lot of stress for a pen and a microphone. I'm author of the award-winning Where the Hell is My Bacon? Great for you corporate folks who are struggling right now, which is pretty much all of you. If you're watching live, please let us know that you're here in the comments, where you're from, most importantly, what are you drinking? If you're watching the replay, please give us a hashtag replay. And of course, let us know if you have any questions, feedback, comments, so we can address it during the live stream, preferably, or afterwards if you're watching the replay. All right, today my very special guest on The Thirsty Professional is Duncan Higgins, and you are going to love this guy. Duncan is a freelance video editor, content creator who got there through the world of video games and music. So he studied sound engineering at university. He also watched like how musicians make content to promote themselves, which is so clever. He also studied digital marketing. So he's really kind of a great combination of that creative and technical. He's young, starting right out as a freelance entrepreneur, which I love. Anytime we can keep people out of the corporate world, just kidding. A whole other story. Anyway, Duncan's a super nice guy, really smart, and he gives me a lot of hope about the future. I will be happy if this guy is running the world in 30 years. So please help me welcome Duncan Higgins. Duncan, welcome to The Thirsty Professional.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's so good to have you here on this 4th of July. Weird. I've got a Brit here on the day that we're celebrating but maybe some of us are secretly hoping that we can reverse that to 50-year-old independence.
Reconciliation, yes.
There you go. So what are you drinking today, Duncan?
Water. I'm very, at the moment, kind of obsessed with water, especially because it's like really hot in the UK at the moment.
You were telling me, heat wave.
Yeah, heat wave. Got to stay hydrated. I literally go crazy if I don't have water. So.
Well, that's so healthy. I love that. You were telling me, I was asking you actually, before we went live, if you had your hair cut because of the last time I talked to you.
Yeah.
And you were saying because of the heat wave, which I can attest, because most of the time I'm wearing the hair. I cannot stand to have, I don't know how people, especially women who have long hair, I don't know how they do it, wear their hair down and touching them and sweating. Ugh.
Yeah.
I just can't do it. Well, hey, I want to just jump into the comments. We already have some people joining in, which is lovely.
Yes.
I love this.
Hello.
Yay. So we've got Alan Lloyd joining us. Hi, Beth and Duncan. Sat in a hot car, need to get a drink. Please do. Please. We don't want anybody sitting in a hot car. Doris Walsh, the amazing Doris. Doris, I was just throwing some of your shorts from your appearance on The Thirsty Professional out on YouTube today. So many of them. She says, hey, Beth and Duncan, loved bopping along to your jingle in the UK with a cold bevy. Yay. Probably need one today. Stella Scott Malmo. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong because the umlaut always throws me. Is it Malmo? Is in the house drinking water. I remember the umlaut from German. Did you take a foreign language at any point?
Yes.
Okay.
So I don't know how familiar you are with the English school system, but we have this thing called GCSEs, and it's kind of like just before high school level, and they actually make you do two. They
Oh,
call it, or at least in the kind of area that I grew up in, they make you do to help you kind of, uh, especially in the corporate world, there's a lot of like need for learning different languages, especially in Europe, because if you're going to be moving between companies.
yeah.
So we did German and French, and then the people on the opposite side of the school did German and Spanish.
So you're familiar with the umlaut.
I am,
Yes.
yes.
So it's always, yeah, I took a little bit of German in college. I do think that is an area in the US where we're very remiss in, we really don't, in most cases, start kids really early. We're getting a little bit better in some
Mm,
schools, but basically you get to high school. So you're 14, 15 years old, and that might be the first time that you're learning a second language, which, by the time you hit puberty, your language center of your brain is not as, I mean, you know how it is. Even when you're young, you just learn everything like a sponge.
mm,
Okay, so Doris says, Happy Independence Day, US friends. Thank you, Doris. Stella says, Hi, Duncan. Stella says, In the summer, my hair is like a furry animal around the neck. Stella has beautiful curly hair, but I could not have hair like that down. I would have to, I'm almost 100%. In fact, I think if I didn't care, like if I didn't think that maybe my husband would, I mean, my husband doesn't care what I do, but I know he likes the long hair, right? And my hair's getting pretty long. But
mm,
if it weren't for him, I would probably, no kidding, I would shave my head, or like a number one on the clipper, right? A really, really
mm,
short in the summertime, and then just let it grow out for the rest of the year because
mm.
it's so much cooler. Anyway,
When you said that, I thought you were about to say go like full Britney, shave it all off.
well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean,
Mm.
when I say shave, I wouldn't want skin showing, but like I say a number one, we have when you use a clipper, like when a man gets a beard done or whatever,
Yes, yeah,
there's
yeah.
different levels,
There's
right? And
different
I would want a
grades.
little tiny bit of shadow showing maybe, but yeah,
Hmm.
that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so much cooler. I've had an undercut. In fact, 2 years ago when I got laid off from my corporate job, I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to do it. And so I got a really short cut, like, kind of a little, like a pink, the singer Pink,
Yes, yeah.
the kind of the undercut on the sides. And I've had an undercut before and it's so cool. But I've never done like the full head. So
Mm.
that's a little, Stella says I'm pretty good with the umlaut. Well, thank you, Stella. So, okay, let's jump in. So, hey, Duncan, let's talk. I always like to start with let's tell people, what do you do now? What are you
Yes,
pursuing in your passion and your career and your purpose?
for sure. I think, especially since the last time we've spoken, it's kind of evolved again. Um,
Ooh, exciting.
yeah, exciting. I know. So at the moment, I'm mainly doing freelance video editing, kind of helping very busy business owners with the kind of pipeline that is content creation these days, because everyone is either like turning themselves into a content studio or is using a content studio to get their content out. And it can kind of feel like if you're doing it all on your own, it's kind of this mountain to climb when it comes to just staying relevant
Well, it
on
is. It's
social
and it's
media.
a lot of work. I mean,
Mm.
you specialize in video editing and
Yes.
video content,
Yeah.
and I know I've talked about with all my guests know, and I just talked about putting the shorts out for Doris. It's just even clipping,
Mm.
let alone making it amazing, is a ton of work.
It's a lot of work. So that's something that I'm kind of really trying to pursue and kind of grow and develop. But since we spoke last, I've had a lot of people approach me about audio stuff, which
Oh.
like uh, is kind of an interesting full circle moment
For
because
example, tell me what would be like an audio only type of thing.
yeah. So um, I've had the kind of game studio that I was doing the trailers for, which is a kind of project that I'm working on, approached me about potentially doing the music and sound for one of their upcoming games. I'm not allowed to like speak about it a whole bunch
Okay.
because like obviously it's still in development, but that is kind of an interesting area of this really nice flexibility that comes with freelancing of this isn't my like corporate term that I have to kind of go out first, and then once that's done I can start looking for new opportunities. I can kind of really go, yes, they loved my work on this, and I also have skills in this area, so it kind of makes sense to help them out with that. But yeah,
How great is it that you are, what are you, 24?
23.
23. So you're 23
Yeah.
years old and that you are already, I don't mean to bash the corporate world, but you're exactly right. You go into a corporate job and there are many, many opportunities, right? I was there for 23 years, but generally you have to be someplace for a while, learn a
Mm,
skill. And they have, some of them have programs where they shoot you here and there, but you're generally, it's like a year, maybe 2 years in each spot to,
yeah.
you just can go, you know what? Hey, I can try that. Plus you're young enough to not be, daunted by, reality or
Yeah.
perception of reality yet. I love that about you, Duncan, that you're just, and wherever you end, you're so young that wherever you end up, who knows?
Mm,
But the fact that you're just like, embracing and allowing and receiving these opportunities and saying, yeah, I'll try that. Let's do that. Well, plus you have, and we'll talk about this in a second, but you have a background in sound engineering. So that
yeah,
makes
it
sense.
makes sense.
Yeah. How does it feel? Can I ask you just, I normally have people twice your age or older on this show who've
Yeah.
done, a lot of them have worked in traditional, most of them have worked in traditional jobs for decades, even on this call, even folks who had traditional jobs. What does it feel like as a young entrepreneur?
Yeah, it's this kind of really interesting time. I don't know if you feel the same way of, especially in Gen Z, which is the kind of group that I'm a part of this kind of corporate disillusionment of realizing that, like, before, what used to work was kind of you went to work for 40, 50, 60 years and in one job with one company, and that would be your life. And kind of slowly people realizing more and more that that's not always the case, and that, like, with corporate layoffs and stuff like that,
Yeah,
job security isn't uh, as prominent or as real as it used to be. So people are kind of exploring their own opportunities, and I think that's been really encouraging for me, because there's been like a huge wave of Gen Z people that just do their own thing. And I think it's kind of the advice that I got at the digital marketing course that I did was that you don't have to wait for the opportunities to come to you. You can go out looking for the opportunities yourself. And I think I've really just tried to take that to heart, because before I was trying a corporate route and I was not finding a lot of success because I was waiting for the person to say, yeah, I'll hire you. Yep,
yeah.
I'll help you relocate. Yep, I'll do this. Yep, I'll do that. And it's sometimes you can just do it yourself. Yeah.
It's truly amazing. You really have saved yourself about 30 years of grief. Now that learning is, important, but so yeah, the disillusionment I think is different, but
Mm,
I see that, and I saw that as a manager when I was, in my late 40s, being a manager, um, and seeing the different perspectives of the young people coming in. And I will say, I've said many times, y'all are paving the way for this, changing even talking about the corporate world, but
mm,
changing the way that we think about that 40 or 50-year job, which as a person now in my 50s, and I think about it kind of sickens me to think that people are going into jobs and they would be there forever. But there was that
mm,
sense of that sort of boomer leftover into Gen X sense of stability, but it also killed your creativity for a lot of people, myself included. And
mm,
so when I see the young folks coming in and they're like, no, I'm not going to put up with this crap, and I'm not going to stay in this job because I'm scared, because I'm better than that, right? That's what you have that I think our generation or older generations to some extent um, lacked, was that, just do it. Like, we have confidence, but it's just different. It's like
mm.
Anyway, we could go on and on about all that stuff. But so yeah, so all right, so you're doing audio, you're pulling in some audio work. So
Yeah.
let's go back a little bit because you studied in uni, you studied.
Yes. Music production and sound engineering was the
Sounds
title, but
fun.
essentially just kind of music technology in general.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, it really was. It was nothing in my life was quite like going to uni for good and bad, because
Tell
obviously,
me about both.
yeah. So there's this thing where I live in Surrey called the Surrey bubble, because Surrey is quite an affluent area in England. And so you don't really need to leave Surrey ever to experience most of what life has to offer. Might go occasionally to London because it's quite close, but you don't really need to leave. And so I kind of got used to a certain way of existence. And when I left for London for uni, it changed my whole perspective on life in general, because the bubble popped quite literally.
Mm,
Um, and so it was this kind of freedom, but also fear of like, okay, now I'm on my own. I have to kind of do this. But it was really encouraging just being surrounded by like-minded people
yeah.
that they all love music. They're all so willing to kind of share their musical experience or tastes, and like learning together was such a great thing. Um, and then I guess, yeah,
So what was the bad part? So that
the
sounds like a good part, right? I
yeah,
mean,
no,
the
it's
bubbles burst. But by the way, I'll say that
mhm,
I think that's a common experience when people go to university, especially, and so many people do. I mean, I went to a very small school. It was a very rural school,
yeah,
just very, very broad and small class. And it was great. It was a great upbringing. But when I went to university, it was both overwhelming because I just had never been around so many people and so much diversity and of thought and as well as other diversity.
yeah,
But it was also the first time that I could choose the people that I wanted to associate with and be friends with. Whereas when you
yes,
have like 50, 100
yeah,
people in your graduating class, you're friends with who you're friends with because by circumstance and location. But when I went to university, it was like, whoa. And initially went to a big university, did not graduate from there, but went to a big one. And yeah, it was like, wow, so the bubble was burst, but in a different way. So it was like, oh my God, I could have blue hair and I could
yeah,
be, in a dorm situation with people of all from every country of the world and every color and, background and, to the really rich to the very, very poor. And so,
yeah.
so
I
what
know,
was the bad
to
part of
to touch on the bad part, it's one of those things where it's like at the time it was quite bad, but looking back, it was kind of very beneficial for my overall growth as a human being. But it just made me realize like how sheltered I was, because suddenly I had to like do all of these things and manage all of these things myself. Whereas before I had like, not to say that I wasn't being helped out by my family, but a lot of this kind of stuff was just kind of taken care of just due to the kind of natural affluence of Surrey as a whole. But just really stepping out of it kind of made me appreciate what I had more, and kind of without that safety net, everything became a lot more real. It's like,
yeah,
oh, if you kind of run out of money, that's game over, kind of thing.
yeah.
So
Discomfort is the herald of opportunity. I mean,
yeah,
this is one of the things that I think your generation does struggle with, and it's not just affluence as far as money. It's
mm,
also, you have parents. The pendulum for them was so over here of, um, just my parents were basically like, just go away and come back at dinner and be back before dark
mm,
and I think your parents' generation, which is probably my generation, swung back, and now parents, they want to fix everything, and there are a lot of young people that I've encountered that struggle with that. And especially
Yeah.
you're 23, so you would have been going to uni during COVID, which is another
Yes.
big, like, holy shit,
Yeah.
that just messed with everybody's minds, but particularly the young folks who had not yet quite learned how to deal with that discomfort.
Yeah.
So it really is amazing to me, Duncan, that you are recognizing these things about yourself so early. It's really, it's amazing, really.
Yeah. It's something. It's definitely something that I love to preface when I say all of these things, is that it wasn't an overnight thing. Like, I didn't just wake up one day and go like, "Oh, I've come to an epiphany. Like, I understand now."
Yeah, never is,
Um,
never is.
yeah, it came through a lot of just like struggling and like inner reflection, and then also outer reflection. Of I had was really fortunate to kind of go on, like, everyone's talking about this at the moment, kind of like well-being and mindfulness,
Yeah.
but I didn't have that before. Like, I usually separate my life into like pre-uni, post-uni, because at uni I kind of met a lot of people that were in the mindfulness space,
Yeah.
and before I was kind of like, oh, this is a little bit like wishy-washy hogwash nonsense, but
Woo woo.
yeah, that kind of stuff. But then also realizing that actually a lot of the kind of core fundamental concepts of this, of like taking care of yourself, not just physically but mentally, it's actually so important. So yeah.
I'm telling you, it's just really amazing to me because I will say it again, you've saved yourself about 30 years because most people that I talk to, myself included, we really we're sort of aware. We think a lot of us think we're confident, and we are to some extent, but we don't realize until we really get into our middle years how much that mindset work is so important, and how looking within and not, and looking for, those opportunities, and building the confidence in our self-worth and gratitude and all those things, how important they really are.
Yeah.
You're really, I love that you are discovering this stuff early because it's so important. I mean, you'll be so set when you get to your middle years. You'll be like, look, I've been working on this
Yeah,
for
no,
30
it's
years.
it's so it's so exciting to kind of be going on this journey early, because like you said, like some people, they find out towards the end of their journey all of
Mhm.
this stuff, and it's kind of like sometimes too late. So I'm really trying to not exactly like rush through life, but kind of learn more and more to kind of appreciate like what it is now, so that I can kind of grow early
Yeah.
on, rather than kind of stick with what I know and what's comfortable, and then realize like 20, 30, 40 years down the line that like, oh, I played it way too safe and I didn't kind of live the life that
And
I
you didn't even
wanted because I
and you
was
didn't
living
even know
life.
it. You wouldn't even,
Yeah.
for those of us, we, didn't even realize it. And there's, again, it's not all bad. Again,
Yeah.
discomfort is the herald of opportunity. It's the gateway to growth. So, having a failure and a discomfort sort of mindset is the way to growth. So you have to have crappy things
Mm.
happen, but to be so
Yeah.
self-aware, I mean, that's because even those of us who become more self-aware to a comfort level when we're in our middle years, usually, or getting close to
Mm.
it, it's always a journey. It's going to happen for the rest of our lives. So to be that aware,
Yeah.
there's very few things that I would change, if I were to be able to go back. But one of them would just be a self-awareness, is realizing to what I can control and what I can't, and how much of my world is really dependent on me within, not, blaming everything, which is what I did, right? Which is what a lot of us do. So
Yeah.
it's really, really amazing.
Yeah.
Do you, so I will have to say this because, you talked about, in Surrey and your affluence. I did tell you, I think on our discovery call, that you
Yes.
have a very lovely, I think I called it a royalish accent. So
Yes. We had a lovely conversation about accents. Of technically, I don't have a royal
but you
accent,
do a
although
good
it
royal
to
accent, though. You did a great late
I
queen,
try. I try.
impression.
Yeah, I always have to remember, it's the word to activate it is
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Perfect.
yeah, end of the year. Um, of yeah, you have the received pronunciation, which is the kind of Queen's one, and then you have estuary English, which is kind of everywhere around the Thames estuary, so the river that goes through London. Um, that's the accent that I have, and it's kind of something that I didn't even really appreciate um, was so strong because obviously Surrey bubble, everyone
Yeah.
speaks like this. Not a single person doesn't speak like this. Like when you go to London, especially modern multicultural London, has a very distinct accent. If you think of artists like Stormzy, for example, or yeah, people like Stormzy. I don't know if you have heard
Never
of
heard of
Stormzy.
Stormzy, but I am
Okay.
fascinated with all of your. I mean, we have the same in the US, but we're just so big and spread out that it's a little bit,
Yes.
I don't know, watered down maybe a little bit, but you have so, because I've had so many guests from Great Britain, from Ireland, really from a lot of people,
Yeah.
expats, and it is just interesting. I mean, Doris is a great example. Doris is of Chinese parents, grew up in the Netherlands, and then moved to Scotland. Now living in the UK, not in. I don't think she's still in Scotland. So, but she has an accent that is just beautifully
Yeah.
representative of all of those things, and it's just really interesting.
Yeah.
There's a lady I watch on. She's a young-ish mom. I don't know if she's British or not, but she does her whole
Hmm.
social media thing is that she talks to her baby in the Queen's voice. So it's
Okay.
really fun. So I see your, happiest of birthdays, and she'll do this whole thing of talking to her baby, and then her baby will be like, it's very, very cute. Just love it.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your family. Do you have any siblings? Are you
Yeah. It's actually really topical at the moment because obviously it's Wimbledon
yeah.
at the moment in the UK, and my older sister uh, is kind of a production coordinator for a company that works a lot in London for various events, and she's helping out at
Oh,
Wimbledon
how
right
fun.
now. Uh,
Oh, so she's got a
yeah,
free ticket.
so I get lots of yeah, but it is a lot of hours
Yeah.
like work because they get there very early, and then obviously the games finish quite late. So, but yeah, that's kind of thing. And then I have a younger brother who is kind of starting. He's like a bit younger than me, starting his kind of
Okay.
military career. So, yeah, kind of all over the place in terms of
Nice. So you
careers.
talked about your sister doing a lot of hours. Is that something that
Hmm.
you worry about? I know that might be. I know for here in the U.S. that is probably one thing that Gen Z has made great strides towards, but it also is concerned about is this idea of I'm going to have to work 12, 14-hour days, which I did for many, many years. Is that something that you worry about as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, it's something that I'm kind of worrying less and less about now because I'm trying to develop systems around my work to make sure that it's kind of manageable. But at the start, I think I don't know if I mentioned like at the start, I didn't have a kind of very concrete idea of what I was offering. So I would just handle a lot of stuff that was maybe like a team's worth of
This is
work as
every
just one
entrepreneur
person.
in the entire universe say the same thing at
Yeah,
some
it's
point.
I'm finding more and more. I had no idea. I thought it was just
Yeah,
me until I
yeah.
spoke to a bunch of entrepreneurs and freelancers, and they were like, "Yeah, no, everyone does that." I was like, "Okay, phew, it's not just me." Um, but yeah, at the start, it was kind of crazy hours and like working into the kind of
Mm.
AMs just to get stuff done for like obscene deadlines to kind of stuff now that I would probably email back and go, I'd be able to handle this aspect of it for sure. I can let you know someone to help you with the other aspects because that's not something that I do. Or if it's kind of like very unreasonable stuff, just be like, no,
You're
this
gonna
doesn't
you're gonna
work.
be
This
coaching
is
people
unreal.
on this in 5 years, I tell you, because you all of the things this is exactly what people struggle with, like, how much do I charge? And, yes, I'll say yes because I'm just starting and I think I have to and I can't say no. And I
Mm.
mean, it is also similar in a traditional job, but at least you're getting a steady paycheck then, right? You're probably in your
Yeah.
head, as many entrepreneurs do, risking well, and this is why so many people undercut their own prices. They don't charge enough. So it's again, you're gonna coach people in 5 years.
Yeah. It's still a journey. Like even you're saying now, it's like I've had stuff in recent memory where I've undercut because I didn't fully believe in my worth, and that's still a kind of journey that I'm going on. But more and more when opportunities come my way, I'm very much kind of like interrogating it essentially in terms of, is this worth my time? Am I going to be able to provide the value? And if it's like a yes, then I'm like, yes, I should be charging this
Yeah,
amount. I shouldn't be
yeah.
charging like down there because that's not helpful
No.
for them or for me. So it's like it
Well,
doesn't
I
make
think
any
you're.
sense.
I love your. You've started putting a few things out on LinkedIn, and one of them was a little promo
Mm.
for this episode. And I just thought your creativity
Yes.
was amazing. And I know, when you're working for somebody else, it can be different, right? Because they have ideas and it sometimes has to be a little bit more traditionally. But I got your
Yeah.
creativity in both of the videos that you put out last week where the creativity was just top notch. I mean, you're so authentic and likable, and you really should do more of that, really, even in just promoting
Thank
your,
you.
whatever you're doing in your professional world. But it's
Yeah.
very appealing. People are looking for. I was reading an article today about. I think it was. Is it who's getting rid of YouTube? Is getting rid of. Or they're doing something with their AI content, and they were talking about how people are. I think Lion Flood, who created this great song that I have in my intro, former guest.
Hmm.
He said something similar about um, people want that authenticity. People want that using AI. Great. I'm not anti AI. I use it all the time, but just
Mm.
coming across as real and authentic, I think, is what people are looking for now.
Yeah. To kind of touch on that, I've had like a lot of conversations around that lately because I've been going on this kind of restarting my content journey of, I think there was this time, especially like pre-pandemic, where everything was kind of overproduced. There was like, because a lot of these tools are now really widely accessible, a lot of like editing software
Yeah.
especially, there are some really powerful ones for free. Like for instance, the one that I use, DaVinci Resolve, is kind of industry standard for like movies and stuff. They use it on movies, but it's completely free. There's obviously differences if you get like a paid one, but that kind of level is accessible to literally anyone with an internet connection.
Yeah.
So there was this kind of huge boom of like trying to one up each other in terms of flashiness or like
Yeah.
production value. And it kind of quickly spiraled out of control in terms of
Yeah.
authenticity because it's really easy to hide behind a veneer of like everything looks amazing.
Yes.
And then
And that's great at
I
first. I
feel like
mean,
that kind of fell
you sort
apart.
of when that trend, those kinds of trends hit, it's like, oh, wow, that's really interesting and new. But very quickly, it's like like baby videos, which I have one at the end of my intro. They're so cute and they're so funny,
Mm.
but after you see about 100 of them, you go, okay, I'm ready for something a little different.
Something else. Yeah.
I want to jump into our comments here because we got some people weighing in here on a few things. So let's see. Doris says she has a husband that loves her long hair like mine. Yes, a lot of husbands do, heterosexual husbands anyway. Probably some non-heterosexual ones too. She says, I'm not even sure those fun topics were available when she went to uni, that being, hey, can I major in sound engineering? Right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's something that like I feel so grateful to have because like I was literally talking to people, some of the lecturers at the uni that I went to. They didn't have this. They had to learn by going to recording
Oh, wow.
studios, which is how. So the place that I went to is this place called Point Blank Music School. It's part of the Uni of Middlesex, but it's its own like
Yeah.
independent thing. It started off as a recording studio
Oh,
in
wow.
London, and they were so good at teaching people how to kind of produce records and stuff that they just said, "Why don't we just be a uni? We can
Nice.
just teach people to do
So
this."
fortuitous
So
for
yeah,
you. That's awesome. That is right there in your
I
wheelhouse.
did.
Stella says, when I started out, I always knew a corporate job was impossible. She's 66. She was 16 at the time, realizing I've got to decide my own schedule and started my first dance company at 20. Also, she had club feet too, so that was even more amazing. Yes, I
Yeah.
am so envious. You're going to be one of these people, Duncan. I can tell you're gonna follow your heart, your passion, and what you love. Stella loves the woo. We love the woo. Doris says, I grew up during a time when mental health was stigmatized and rarely discussed. So good that Gen Z are open and vocal about that. Yes, yes. And there are much more aware of the benefits of emotional well being. 100%. Absolutely. Stella loves your videos, Duncan. Heidi Medina, my very first guest on this show back in January, and a great friend. Heidi
Yeah.
says people have always been looking for real and authentic, but they're also feeling pressured now to produce more so they get seen more, hence the over AI use. Yeah, and I still think AI is amazing. But I do think that the pendulum is gonna level off somewhere where people they still want authenticity. Even in AI, they want authenticity.
Yeah.
Stella says, your intro for The Thirsty Professional is so much fun. Lion Flood, I smile every time I see it. Yes, thank you to Lion for that amazing song and for all of my guests for being a part of that intro. It's always so fun. I want to talk a little bit, Duncan, if we can, about some of the challenges that maybe you've seen. Because I know when, so I met Duncan in a networking call. It was the Founders Network, right? Yes,
Yes.
amazing. Have
Yeah.
had so many guests. Some people on here are members of that. It is a great, great community. I won't even can't even call it a networking. They have a call, a regular call for networking, but it is a great community. Had so many guests from there. And I remember Duncan coming on. Everybody does a very brief 20-second intro, and I remember Duncan came on. He was I hadn't seen him before, and so he was like, oh, "Okay, here's this young guy." There's so many people that are in their 30s, 40s, and 50s that when somebody who's clearly not is definitely right. And
Yeah.
then I ended up getting in a one-on-one, and I thought, okay, there was a little bit of me. It's like, okay, am I going to have anything in common? And we just we're talking about videos and pet peeves and things that we wish people would do differently. So I just love that. And so I'm going to ask you. So as you are now also doing audio content, but also video content,
Mm.
what are some things that are challenging for you that you wish people would do differently that would help you as a video and audio
Yes.
editor and content creator?
Yeah. I think it's something that would help literally everyone in general. I was having a conversation with someone that I had a one to one with at the Founders Network literally yesterday about this because he films events. And it's to do with when people are making content, a lot of people don't really appreciate that it's something that's being produced. They don't really see it as the same kind of thing or have the same kind of respect as if they were on a TV or movie set. So stuff like when people are mic'd up, like when they have like a lav mic attached to them and they're just like rustling their clothes, it to them is so natural and it's like I can totally understand you forget that
Yeah,
it's there. To someone editing like 60 audio tracks of like different people at different events or like I've had this a lot with interviews. That was a commonality that I was discussing of when someone's about to say something important and they go Russell, 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 or they're not thinking about the kind of essentially
yeah,
stage that they're on of like even it's just a lobby of their building, people slamming the doors or like opening, creaking as they're about to say something. It's the audio becomes unusable. So I think my PSA call to action would be: imagine every time you're making content or recording yourself, imagine you are on a movie set getting directed by Hollywood's best directors. Would they want you to be fiddling with your clothes or slamming doors? Probably not. So you should probably not to.
I love this because I actually have had a couple guests who wear, and I tell them, it's partly my own fault because I hate it when people use their laptop mic. We talked about this earlier before we
Mm,
got on this call
yes,
about people
yeah.
using their laptop mics, and some of them are good. I have a MacBook Pro that's pretty good laptop mic, but I have heard some really, really shitty ones. So I always tell people even plugins are better, and they are, but then you get people who have, and I've done it myself. I have recorded entire podcasts. I've had a lot of different podcasts. I've recorded entire
Mm,
podcasts and realized later that my earring was hitting my microphone or it was hitting my necklace or something like that. It's people just
yes.
don't realize. And so I had a guest once great guest, who was really good sound, except every so often I'd hear that click, click, tink, tink, rustle, rustle. So I said, can you just, and it was had a hoodie with the strings of his hoodie. And so
Oh,
I
with
said,
the
can you just tuck
strings,
those
yeah.
inside? So, yes, and especially people who, I think when what you're talking about too might even be a little harder because if you're out like, videoing a wedding or something, people just aren't there. But
Yeah.
especially people who are regular guests on podcasts or do video themselves or do podcasts, just those are great things to be aware of. I mean, sometimes you can't help it and life happens. And for something like
Yeah.
this, I mean, people have heard my dog barking. I have had to get up out of my chair and shut my door before that. But yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's not one of those things where I necessarily blame
No,
people,
you
because
just
I've had conversations with them and they've been so genuinely blissfully
yes.
unaware that it's even happening until, because they hear, like, the brain experiences everything all at once. They're just kind of tuned into their perception of reality. It's not until you hear something recorded back that you're like, oh, because when I've shown them the recordings, and there's this thing in audio called clipping where it like meets the threshold of what the signal can handle, and it distorts. And most people, because your ear doesn't distort, like if you experience a loud noise, you just go deaf. Like if it
Yeah.
bursts your eardrum, you just go deaf. With a speaker or microphone, it distorts horribly, and it's like this really loud
Yes.
screeching, essentially, sometimes, that most people have never experienced in their life because they don't regularly like record themselves or replay what they've been doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just kind of, my main campaign is to kind of just highlight that to people, just like gently nudge them and go like, let's have a think about this. Not necessarily like, you guys are awful and you need
No,
to
it's
stop this
just being,
immediately.
and I think one of the things that helped me in the sound area is, so my husband and I were paranormal investigators for 10 years. Yeah, so
Okay,
you really
interesting.
learn things like, there were a couple of times where I was like, what is that jingle sound? Like I would hear with my ears, and it was somebody wearing earrings, like somebody in that, rule number one, don't wear earrings, don't wear rustly stuff. So you learn when you're primarily dealing with video and audio on an investigation, plus you're in the
Yeah,
dark, you learn these things about all of the things that will impact your audio or your video that you don't even think about. Because I'm wearing earrings right now, and now that we're talking about it, I can hear them kind of clickety clacketing. Probably shouldn't have worn these
yeah,
ones, but I have my microphone will hopefully get most of it out, but people don't think about that. Either you're not thinking about the things. I'm
yeah.
hearing a lawnmower right now out my window. I'm pretty sure my mic's not picking it up, but if it were closer, it might. And you don't even I'm not even
Mm,
aware until I'm thinking about it. So you can't blame people, especially if they're, the
yeah,
just being filmed for something that but
yes. I think
I
that's
do blame
another thing
people
of,
who are regular guests or podcasters
yeah,
to
yeah.
learn how to
It's
do better.
it's good that you point that out because I think especially a lot of the people that I worked with on those interviews, they had never been interviewed before
Right.
in their life.
Yeah.
So it's like very new.
Have you ever been
So I
interviewed
can
before in your
totally
life
understand. For like a publication,
for
no.
like a podcast or a video, or is this your first?
No, I think this would be my first kind of like actual appearance. I've done a lot of behind the
Yeah.
scenes work on like bits and pieces of this kind of stuff. Like I did a mini podcast pilot with my friends around D&D because that's something that I'm like really interested in. But in terms of like public facing presenting stuff, this would
Well,
actually be my
awesome. Well,
first one.
congratulations. You're a natural, by the way. You just very, again, we throw around the
Thank
word
you.
authenticity, but I think we kind of know what we mean. And
Mm.
you're just very natural and authentic. So I love that. Um, we're going to wrap up in a little bit here, folks. We've got a few more minutes. I want to get to the comments here real quick, and then I have, I think, one other question that I want to ask you. Stella says she can't stand AI voices. They make me doubt the material they present. Is that big too? Stella, you know what? They're getting really good now with AI voices. I will say that I have seen
Yeah,
some. I
scarily
don't.
good.
I mean, I don't use them, and I have no plans on using them. But some of them are now. It's pretty hard to tell, which is, I guess, both exciting and scary. Right? Like
Mm.
Heidi says, so true, Stella. Plus, have you noticed the lack of breathing? It's just wrong. Yeah, that is. Maybe the maybe the AI people will have to work, or maybe AI will have to learn itself how to breathe. Stella says mine
Mm.
is shitty, and as a musician, I'm very sensitive to those rattles, etc. Finances, yeah. I mean, honestly, and this is what I tell people: you don't have to spend a whole lot, and I would rather have somebody come
Mm.
on with inadequate, quote inadequate microphone and still be able to tell their story. There are limits. I had a lady once. I used to have a podcast about. It was called My Favorite Bitch, and it was about my dog, basically, and pets and people that had pets. And I had a couple
Hmm.
people on there. One lady, her bandwidth was so crappy, but she was just a dog person, right? She's not out there in an online job.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
another lady
yeah.
was she was out in her she was lived in the middle of the country, and she was out in a field, and it was windy, and I could hardly understand her. So there are limits. But honestly, it's probably more of a concern for you because you're editing video and audio for people or companies where it's probably needs to be a little bit more quote professional. I don't
Yeah.
I don't worry too much about it unless I hear something obvious when I'm talking to people beforehand.
Yeah.
So I want to just ask you one thing because you are. I should ask this for everybody because who cares if somebody is 70 or 23? But what do you see
Hmm.
yourself doing in 5 years? World's your oyster. What pearls,
That
what
is a
pearls
really
are you
interesting
gonna pull
question.
out, or do you? It's okay if you don't, but maybe you should.
I think something that came to mind immediately is something that I've been kind of planning to do, but always said like, "Oh, I'll do it when the time is right," which is obviously a key gateway for things to never happen. Um, but definitely once I've kind of had my whole freelancing thing be a little bit more structured in terms of like expectations of revenue and stuff, branch out into video game development because I've always wanted to make video games. And I think it's such a good medium for storytelling that encompasses everything from art to, or like visual art to music to even interactivity in such a fun way.
Well,
So I would love
you
to
have the
be
perfect background for that,
doing that.
and even with, excuse me, your sound engineering stuff. I was
Yeah.
just telling somebody the other day. She's has come into the comments a few times. Good friend Antonia or Tony Bet, and she turned me on
Hmm.
to Arcane, the movie Arcane, or the series Arcane, right? The
The
show
show,
Arcane. And I'm
yeah,
not a
yeah.
big video person. My husband does some, Elder Scrolls kind of thing, and I was very
Yeah.
skeptical because I typically don't like cartoon, even adult cartoon movies or
Mm,
series. I was
yeah.
so blown away, and one of the things that made it so over the top amazing was the sound and the music that they used that was just, I mean, chills. I'm getting
So
chills even
good.
thinking about it. So it's
Mm,
I see
yeah,
assume from your reaction that you were familiar with Arcane.
I love Arcane. It's so funny because Arcane gives a really amazing impression of what League of Legends,
Yeah.
the game that it's from, is about. And the League of Legends community should probably be in the eighth layer of hell because it is like disgustingly toxic. So there's a very big misalignment there. But to touch on your point of music, I've always said this: Riot Games, the people that make
Yeah.
League of Legends, are my favorite record label that just happened to make
Really?
games because they source all of the musical talent. They're based in California, so it's
Mm.
really easy to get like very good talent from LA. But they make all of the music themselves. They find the artists. They support artists, and that's why they have such good music. Kind of their whole approach to music and gaming in general is kind of crazy because they've come up with artificial bands, like bands based on the characters in their game, but they
Oh,
get real talent. Um, there's one in particular, I don't know how into it you are, but they did something in the heavy metal genre of this thing called Pentakill, which is based on a whole bunch of characters from League, but they got a whole bunch of like world renowned talent that people would recognize. Like I said, the other guy's name, there's like a Yawn guy from like Sweden who's got like a really killer voice, plays one of the people in it. Their
how
approach
cool.
to music is just top notch. So yeah, like people say a lot of things about Riot Games, business decisions, like all of that stuff. They're not like I'm not getting up on my soapbox to kind of like highlight Riot Games as that, but when it comes to music, yeah, I will die on
Well,
that.
I will give them an A plus for converting me into a big fan of Arcane and just
It's
the kind of
so
the world
good.
in general because it was so good. And
Yeah.
I normally don't like. My husband will tell me I just made us stop watching a series we were binging because it was like they were chopping people's heads off, and I'm like, oh, just too much violence. But I don't
Mm.
know, something about it being a cartoon and being all pink and colorful that it's just, I don't know, it weirdly tempers it, and then the music just brings you to a new level of like, I don't
Yeah.
know.
And I
So
think it's interesting that you mention Arcane because obviously, like, we've had a discussion that you're not like super into steampunk, you just have the
yeah,
hat
no,
and thing.
yeah,
But obviously, it has a very big steampunk aesthetic. So
yes.
I think it's interesting. You'd fit right in Piltover.
Oh, lovely. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. That's a high compliment. Yeah, I'm not I've been asked the question like, "Oh my, are you really into steampunk?" I'm like, "No, I was
Yeah.
into hats and I got this one and everybody liked it and I really liked it." So, there we go.
It's such a distinct aesthetic. So I guess
Yeah.
it comes naturally to ask that question.
Yeah, yeah, it is. I would like to be more. I really get into it. I've been trying to redo my brand colors and thinking about being a little bit more steampunky brandy, but I just like bright colors so much. So
Mm.
I don't know if that'll work, but okay. So Duncan, we're going to be wrapping up here. Before we do, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you? I know you're on LinkedIn. I'm going to put your and I'll put
Yes.
everything in the comments, folks, as I always do. But I will. I'm going to put your LinkedIn up right now.
Yeah, I would say LinkedIn is probably the best place at the moment to be
Awesome.
reaching out.
Are you looking into getting a website? I don't think you had.
I I am. That's something that I'm kind of discussing with a few people in terms of like
Nice.
what I should be doing. Because when
Should.
it comes to video stuff, I had a lot of concerns about like copyright because I've worked with some people who have like art list music and stuff. And whilst they're more than happy it's for me to have it on my portfolio, I don't know if YouTube would necessarily be down for that. So it's an ongoing project, but once it's out, 100% gonna let people know. Yeah,
Awesome.
LinkedIn for
Yeah.
now.
I mean, probably there are probably people out there that who had the same concerns. I think there are ways that you can work around it. Maybe
For
include something in
sure.
your contract, like using a non-identifying clip or something like that, or even
Yeah.
maybe an identifying clip. But yeah, it is a little tricky, but still, landing page. So I know whatever you do, it's going to be amazing.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Duncan, for being on The Thirsty Professional, especially on this 4th of July when my country is celebrating their independence from your country, which, like I said before, maybe we want to revoke at that a little bit. But I just love you. I'm so glad I met you. I'm so glad that we talked, and that you brought this just freshness to the world of us folks who are, feeling a renewed freshness, but maybe had to start off with some ugliness. And I love that you're just following your passion and you're following your purpose so early on. I just think you have nowhere to go but like this, astronomical. I think you're just awesome.
Thank you.
All right, folks, The Thirsty Professional is going to be on holiday for the next 2 weeks. Woohoo! So I got my sisters visiting and I'm just taking a little time off to catch up. So we'll be returning on July 25th with my very special guest, Louise Sverud. Louise is a trilingual virtual assistant and business owner. She speaks Spanish, English, and Swedish, who also has her master's degree in psychology and communication. What a great combo for being an entrepreneur. She comes from a long corporate career where she suffered burnout, even transitioning to VA work during COVID. Everybody like COVID is like the transitional time. Now she helps busy entrepreneurs grow their business. We are going to have so much to talk about, including how boring we think marketing is and how we both fear being lumped into the mundane, right? I love Louise. She's exactly what I look for in guests. She's candid, honest, freely sharing her wisdom openly and transparently. Hope you can join us on July 25th. If you're out there watching on LinkedIn, please connect, if you are not already, with myself and the awesome Duncan Higgins. If you are on YouTube, please like and subscribe. So appreciated and so helpful. And all of you so appreciated, those of you who come on, especially to the live, because it just makes the show amazing. If you have any lingering questions or feedback, please leave them in the comments, or you can DM myself, or if you have questions or comments for Duncan. And then congratulate yourself for getting real about your career, your purpose, and your passion. So now Miss Hattie Arbuckle, my lovely steampunk hat, Duncan Higgins, and I are going to bid you a fond farewell. Take it easy. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Fill your cup, let's have a chat about careers, life, and all of that.
Well, that was fun.